All right. Well, Tom, if you could kind of advance us forward there. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Ryan Cantwell, and I am joined today by Mr. Tom Evans. And Tom and I work together at Productside. We are both consultants and trainers, and Tom being a strategic advisor. Tom, why don't you give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, Tom Evans. I've been with Productside for almost 15 years. I love the work, which is why I've been here for 15 years, working with clients around the world to implement better product management practices. And I live in Austin, Texas, and that's where I am today, too.
All right. And I'm Ryan Cantwell, as Tom has labeled me, Mr. Enthusiastic. And I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I'm calling in today from. And both of us are really excited to talk about this topic that we have for you today of writing good outcome statements. So, Tom, if you don't mind, advance to the next slide. And I just want to welcome you by introducing Productside a little bit as well. We're the team behind today's webinar, and at Productside, we know how hard it can be to deliver products people not only use but truly love. Whether it's aligning stakeholders, predicting customer needs, or managing endless backlogs that we do, we've seen it all here at Productside. And that's why we're here. We want to be your outcome driven partner. And you're going to hear us say the word outcome about 1,000,001 times over the next hour. But we don't want to just provide solutions. We want to tailor those solutions to your unique challenges and drive a transformation so you see meaningful changes as a result of our partnership together. So we're thrilled to have you with us today, but let's dive in and kind of help you and thrive in your world of product management. So go ahead, Tom. So now let's talk a little bit about how this session is going to work and how we'd like to engage with you throughout. We always get the question as we enter a webinar is, can I watch this later? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can watch it later. We'll send you a link afterwards to the recording, and that'll give you access to it forever. You can check it out and watch it again and again. But during the session, we do want to hear from you. You can use the QA feature that is available to you or the chat feature, but we'd prefer questions put in QA. We monitor that very closely. And don't feel like you have to wait until the end to ask a question. Please do speak up throughout and put those questions in because we love to answer them as we go. So we'll respond to those live. So we just love
Yeah,
engaging with you
yeah,
real time.
absolutely. And I find the questions are so much better to discuss and address when we're on the topic and within the context versus doing it later. So definitely, please post those as we're going through the presentation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. And don't stop there, everybody. Use chat where you've already put in your locations where you can engage with your fellow participants here. Kind of keep the energy up. Don't hold back. And this is your time to get the most out of today's session. So I do want to let you know before we start digging into today's topic that we invite you to connect with us on LinkedIn, us at Productside, that is. Our LinkedIn page is more than just a place for you to follow, it's a community. It's where you can join us and you'll get access to leadership best practices that can inspire your own growth or conversations about the critical role of product management and tips on making it more impactful. Or find opportunities to network with other professionals who share in your challenges that you face every day. So either scan the code that you see on the screen or visit the link provided and we'd love to hear your thoughts, swap ideas, and keep the conversation going after the webinar, even in that community that we make available for you.
All right. So shall we get started here in the webinar, Ryan?
I think we should. Let's go for it.
Okay, let's do it. Well, let's kick off here with a poll question. And Kim is going to launch that poll. But the question is, which goals does your executive team use to guide product managers? Now, as you look across these four answers, you can only pick one. And while it may be several are applicable to you, choose the one that you feel is most aligned to what you are actually being asked to deliver by your executive team. Okay, we're going to give about another 5 seconds. So if you haven't had a chance to answer that poll, but it looks like most everyone has had a chance. So 3, 2, 1. Why don't we go ahead and end that poll and share the results?
Tom, there's a clear winner.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to have to say, Ryan, I am really pleased and impressed by what we hear, because so many of the organizations that we work with, their goals are typically around feature delivery. And so rarely do they actually get talking about business outcomes or having conversations with their senior executives around business outcomes. And so seeing 58% responding with business outcomes is really, there's a word I want that I can't think of, but it's great to see that. It makes my heart feel warm that this work that we're doing and focusing on outcomes is really starting to come to fruition in the product management community.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your response, and hopefully we're back to sharing the full screen. And so we're going to talk about outcomes, and we're first just going to talk about why we want to focus on outcomes. Then we're going to introduce to you two different types of outcomes: business outcomes and product outcomes. So as you were looking at the answers from the previous poll, most of you probably had a sense of what business outcomes were and product outcomes, but you may have still had some questions in your mind. And so we're going to talk about the difference between those and how to you can frame those and write those. And then the last thing we're going to do is how do you communicate these outcomes so that others in the organization are able to see the alignment of your work back to outcomes. So let's ask this first question of why outcomes. Well, to get to the why outcomes, let's answer this question around what's the difference between output and outcomes. So outcome is what you actually deliver. And from a product management perspective, those are typically features or new capabilities that we're adding to the product, or it could be a new product. And so it's really about what are we creating? But we don't just create those because they seem like a good idea, though I often think that we do find in organizations somebody came up with a good idea and we create an output and we never thought about the outcome. But what is an outcome? Well, it's the difference that we make in terms of a particular goal that we have. And this can be a benefit for our organization, or this could be a benefit for our customer. Now, outputs are important because they help drive the outcomes, but it really is, in reality, what we want to focus on as product manager is to deliver on outcomes. Now, why do we care about outcomes? Well, let's go back to the point that Ryan and I talked about around the poll is that we often see organizations where the product managers are being given directives around output, features, capabilities, backlog items that they need to deliver. And there's never that discussion around what are the goals that we're trying to support with that. Now, as a senior executive may have a sense around that, but what happens to you as a product manager when all you're given is a output, but you aren't really given a clarity around the outcome? Well, you don't know if the work that you are working on in terms of delivering features are actually making a difference for your customers or for your organization. The second thing that happens is, let's say that you do identify a better output that you think would support what you believe the output is or the outcome is. Well, guess what happens? We already have a project plan in place. These are the features that you're expected to deliver. We have our team marching ahead, delivering against these outputs. And we don't have the flexibility to make better decisions. And so when we focus more on outcomes, then we have, and one of our consultants has used this term, I love it, is optionality. We have options in terms of what is the best output to deliver on that outcome. And that enables us to pivot as we do our discovery work to be able to pivot to a better solution and answer. And I will tell you this last point is so true is that as I'm speaking to product managers who are their management is just providing them deliver this output, I find that they're a little bit demotivated in their work. They don't find that to be exciting. And I think many of them, as if they were given another opportunity that came around, they might just make that jump because they're not feeling engaged with the organization. Brian, any other thoughts or stories from your experience in this power of the outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, an outcome is really good at giving you the why behind the work because so
Hmm.
often people approach us and say, do this thing. Well, why? Like, what is it going to do? What result am I hoping to achieve? The point isn't just to do the thing, it's to have an impact. And that's really where then the team can align around a common goal and you all can achieve it in your own way. So you have more, like Tom, I like the optionality, right? We
Hmm.
hear that. So now the way you achieve that is has a little more flexibility built in instead of just focused on the work up front and doing the thing. So it's really a a powerful thing as we try to get people aligned, marching in the same direction towards a goal.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Now, we did mention that outputs are important. We're not saying outputs aren't important because outputs are what lead us to achieving outcomes. The question is are we focused on the right outputs or not? Because if you look at much of what is delivered in the world of in the world of products, not just product management, but products, this, I can't remember the statistics, but it's somewhere around only about 20%, maybe 30% of what we actually deliver connects back into a recognizable value. And it's because we are too often focused on the output and not on the outcome. Now, here's the other part of this equation, and Ryan suggested that we talk about this, and I love it because I've seen this in organizations. It's like, all right, here's your outcome. You propose output, but what I haven't gotten is a commitment to resources to be able to deliver it. Well, if I want to achieve this outcome, here's what outputs I need to be able to create, which requires these resources. Well, sorry, you got the team that you have, make them work harder and longer and deliver on these. And I don't know about your experience, Ryan, but rarely have I seen where we could take a team and just make them do more work and actually deliver more output in the targeted time frame.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom, it's always interesting to me too. I had a mentor once give me this analogy and I always liked it. Like, so he said, okay, pretend we're digging holes. That's what we're doing. We're digging holes. The inputs are how many shovels, how many people, how much land do we have to dig the holes in? The outputs would be how many holes did we dig as a group, and the outcome would be why are we digging the holes in the first place? It's to plant the trees to make the park pretty. Like that's what we're trying to do. So you have to have each piece of that equation, and you can kind of see with that very simple analogy on how it all comes together. Why a missing component could be troublesome.
I thought you were going to tell us, Ryan, that the reason we're digging the holes is so we could fill them back up afterwards, But
Yeah,
but
they
that would
fill
be
them back
pretty
up.
demotivating, wouldn't it?
That would be, yeah,
Knowing that my outcome is planting trees is actually quite motivational.
exactly.
All right, so let's talk about business outcomes and understand what business outcomes are and how we can properly frame them. So, if you think about what our goal as a product manager is, ultimately, yes, it is to satisfy our customers, but we don't satisfy our customers only, we satisfy our customers so that we can achieve a business outcome. Now, I don't care whether you are a product manager for a for-profit product, for a nonprofit product, or for an internal product. You still are supporting business outcomes in one form or another. And so don't ever lose sight of that. It may not be measured by profit or it may not be measured by revenue, but there is a business outcome that you are helping your organization achieve. And so that's ultimately what we want to be able to understand is what is that business outcome we're helping our organization achieve. So when we think about business outcomes, I think that connects into what I was just saying is this has to do with a company goal. The initial part of the business outcome is going to come from leadership, where leadership says, here are our goals for the organization. Now, interestingly, and Ryan, you may have experienced this too in some of your training classes, as I start talking about product or business outcomes, and as I talk about business strategy, I too often have product managers in the training class go, but what if we don't even know what those business outcomes are? What if we don't know the strategy of the organization? That starts to make this a little bit more complicated for you because you're guessing. And so one of the expectations that you should have is that your senior leaders are providing you clear outcomes for you to be able to that will guide your decisions. And I think this next slide really helps us understand that is, there are organizational level outcomes. Then if you have different divisions or business units, those are being broken out in a way that the division or business unit is saying, here's how we're going to support those, or maybe it's your product line or product portfolio manager. And then ultimately, there are business outcomes at your product level. So we need to be able to take the overall goals of the organization and break those down into what does that really mean for me? Because if I'm focused on just the organizational outcome, I may not have a good sense of how much am I supposed to be contributing to that. But if I've worked with my manager and my leaders to break that down into product level business outcomes, now I become much more focused and targeted in the work that I'm trying to accomplish. Now, how do we express these business outcomes? Well, I think the most typical way that I see these outcomes expressed are what I would call a high level business outcome. So achieve a certain amount of revenue. But what I really like to see, because I think this gives us as product managers more guidance, is to be able to say, here is about business outcome, and here is a target market segment from that. So that's a little bit more directional. It lets me understand out of all of the markets that we are pursuing, which ones are the most important, or do we have specific objectives for certain market segments that I should be prioritizing? Or if all I'm getting is a business outcome, then I get to choose. And I may not make the right decision. So starting off with that business outcome plus a market segment, in my mind, helps us be more targeted in our focus and in our efforts. So here's some examples of business outcomes, and there's some on the left that are good examples. There's the ones on the right that are not so good, but let's look at the good ones first. And Ryan, which of those would you say is more of a general business outcome versus a targeted business outcome?
Good question. So I would say a general one would be like the first one, grow revenue
Hmm.
20% by end of year, very general goal. Targeted would be like the second one, expand market share in Asia Pacific 10% in the second half. It's giving
Hmm.
me where we're focusing. So that's setting the clearer target.
Yeah, and that's really important because if you start thinking about organizations and their growth, If I'm in certain markets that are mature, well, knowing that I'm not expected to grow by 20% in a mature market is something that is important to me. But if my managers have also done a great job of saying Asia Pacific or Africa or Middle East or some of the immersion markets are the most important ones, then that helps me better focus the decisions I'm making around my growth plans for my product. There's some over here on the right-hand side that are not so good, Ryan. So what do we think is wrong with some of these here?
Oh, these are always interesting to me, Tom. So the first one, improve website traffic. I don't know why I'm trying to improve website traffic. What's the result or impact I am intending to have by moving that needle? What's going on?
Right. Yeah.
I
So
don't
it's not
know.
to say improving website traffic's not important,
Yeah.
but we want to know what is the outcome that we're driving around
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. So Tom, for the second one, I smell an output.
Oh, I do too. Yes, very much so. But believe it or not, that is what so many product managers get in terms of their goals. Deliver this AI, this feature by a certain time period.
Absolutely. And the last one is an interesting one because it's very similar to the first. It's missing a clear why. There are
Hmm.
lots of things posting to LinkedIn can help you accomplish, but I don't know to what end that work will impact. I'm missing that connection, which is why it's kind of bad.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So I want to peel this to one final layer of a way that we might consider expressing an outcome. And this is the specific outcome. So this combines several things together. Is that combines the business outcome, the market outcome, and the outcome strategy. Now you may be asking, Tom, what in the world is an outcome strategy? And well, I'm going to tell you is it is where we believe that revenue opportunity exists. So if we start thinking about a market segment that we want to grow in, there's really only about these 5 ways that we can achieve growth. So, one, you could argue whether this is growth or not, but one is retain my current customers. Now, I expect in most markets we have a certain amount of churn, and so part of our managing and achieving our business outcome is to make sure that we retain a certain percentage of customers. And if we're having high attrition in terms of our customers, that might be a key focus for me is to figure out how can we retain our current customers so that I don't have to make up a lot of extra revenue through new customers, but I'm able to maintain with my current customers. So that's one. And that might be something you identify at your product level, or it could be something that your senior managers or executives identified as one of the key focuses that they want to have. I can take customers from my competitors. Well, if I am in a more mature market, my growth opportunities do tend to be somewhat limited by taking customers away from my competitors. And what you start to see there is that if I'm looking at a market segment and part of my strategy is to retain current customers, and the other part of that strategy is to take customers from competitors, those actually may guide different product decisions I make. My product decisions to retain customers are likely going to be different than the product decisions to take competitor or customers away from competitors. Now, another thing I can do is to increase the amount of purchases that I have with current customers. So it's not just retaining, how do I grow revenue with them? And so we often are looking at our products and saying, what new value can we add to it? Or maybe we can deliver a new value proposition. So that kind of brings us to our fourth one, which can help guide us through that. And the final one is, can we move into new or underserved market segments or sectors? So that might be within your current market segment, there may be a part of that market that just nobody is that is not still using your solution or anybody else's solution. So that could be one growth opportunity. Or as you look in new markets or emerging markets, that would be another one. And this is where being more specific around it, I believe, helps you make better product decisions than just to say, here's my target market and here's the outcome. It's how am I going to win? I guess that's a good way to think about it is what is my winning strategy here? Retaining customers, taking them away from competitors, getting customers to buy more, entering into new markets. I think helps you become more focused in how you plan out the rest of your product strategy.
Yeah, and
Ryan,
Tom,
you
I
look
know
like you had something to say there, so I'm gonna.
I have a question for you actually. So, I guess give me the first steps because you could probably teach a whole webinar on this topic alone, Tom. How do you know which one of these five is right for you?
Yeah, that takes market analysis. And
Yeah.
so when you do market analysis, you need to go and look at your current market share, understand your competitors' market share, understand where the white space is, where is the growth opportunity, what number of customers in that target market segment don't have a solution, and which ones are really part of your I'm going to use the word serviceable, obtainable market. Okay, so that's definitely going to be part of what you're going to look at, but you're also going to want to look at these different segments themselves
Mhm.
and identify what's the size of them, what is the growth rate. And one of the things that we teach in our class is pest analysis. And so using the pest framework is going to help us better understand which of these are the more attractive ones. And so you're really looking ultimately at which of these markets are going to be the most attractive for us, where we believe we have the best opportunity to win. And that's going to help you identify these potential different strategies.
Awesome.
So important to understand, we already talked about this, but there are level of business outcomes. So it's not just there's the corporate level or organizational level of grow revenue by 20%. This may be where your strategy team of your organization has identified here's a couple of areas that we want to focus. We want to grow more with our top 20 customers, and we want to grow more in emerging markets. Now, I haven't, we just for this example, we followed down this path of top 20%, top 20% of customers. Now, we recognize within that top 20% of customers, some of them are using some of our competitors' products. And so, one of our, combining that outcome strategy together with the rest of the outcomes, man, we want to displace Acme in as many of these current customers as we can. All right. Now at my product level, I need to start thinking about uh, what are my goals. And so, yes, it could be a more general one, such as grow revenue by 15%. But more specifically, once I've done my market analysis and my competitive analysis, I believe that I can capture 20% more competitive wins of with my product Widgex against Acme. And so, yeah, this is where again, this requires you to do that market analysis. But yet, at the end of this, you have a much more targeted strategy than just to say, I need to help the business grow 20% revenue. So that's the beauty of breaking these down at those different levels that we talked about. Well, we talked you through product outcomes. Or business outcomes. Let's introduce you to product outcomes. Now, there is a relationship here between product outcomes and business outcomes because by delivering product outcomes, I know that that's going to help me achieve business outcomes. But how do I know which product outcomes to choose? I do that based upon the business outcomes. And so let me give you an example. I was sitting in an airport lounge about, oh, maybe it's been 2 years ago now. And there was somebody next to me having this phone call, and he was having this conversation about going out and surveying customers and understanding customer needs and the great things that we teach people in product management. And once he got off the call, I said, I love what you were talking about. And then we got talking about him saying, yeah, this startup that I'm working with, they have these new features that they want to add to their product. He says, so the question I asked them is, what business outcome is that going to help you achieve? And they didn't know. And so they were all the way in, here's a feature, but they didn't know what business outcome that was going to support. All right. So let's focus on product outcomes that are going to support the business outcome. And then once we know our product outcomes, guess what? That makes it a lot easier to decide which features you want to deliver because you have connectedness to the overall product outcome. So, what is a product outcome? Well, this is about the positive value that you deliver to your customers or users. And so, a product outcome is not about you. The business outcome is about you. The product outcome is about delivering value to your customers. And understand there's not just one product outcome, because especially as you start looking at business to business type sales, for those of you that are in business to business, you have user outcomes and you have the outcomes for the customer overall. And those do have dependencies upon each other, or there's connectedness between those. And so when I say customer outcome, in reality, what are we talking about? We're not just talking about a user persona and a customer overall, because there is truly another persona in your customer that owns those customer outcomes. And we would often talk about that as the buyer persona. And so we need to understand the desired outcomes of your buyer personas within your target customers and the desired outcomes of your users. And those are all product outcomes because those help the customer deliver value. So let's look at an example of this in helping us understand this full ecosystem. So if you look at, an airport, for example, there is an ultimate outcome around airport profit. Maybe there's a satisfaction that they're looking at. Well, there's a persona that owns that outcome of airport profit and passenger satisfaction. But how do we get to profitability? Well, this is not to break out the full equation, but this is, at least if I'm a product manager in the security area, I understand that there's probably an operations manager who cares about the cost of security operations and how many passengers that we can process and get through the airport on a yearly basis. And that's going to have a relationship to the number of flights that we can schedule per day. But then that also impacts somebody else. And maybe that's less around the operations manager. And maybe this is the person who is responsible for managing security, whatever their term might be, different persona. They care about how many agents I need to have on each shift. They might be the ones that care about the number of passengers that we can screen per hour. Okay. And then as I go down further to the percentage of passengers unprepared, that may actually be the security agent themselves, the TSA agent, because they're the ones that have to go, sir, ma'am, you need to take off that jacket. Oh, your belt is on. Do you have something in your pockets that you forgot to take out? All right. And so the better that they're prepared impacts that persona. But we also don't want to forget the passenger persona. Now, they're not part of the buying organization, but yet they are somebody who is going to receive value, potential value in the problem area that we're solving. And so you can start to see that These understanding this breakdown of the desired outcomes within the ecosystem helps guide me as a product manager. And one of the way I like to think about it is if I'm the product manager for security systems, I don't my decisions don't directly impact airport profit or passenger satisfaction, but they can indirectly impact it. But what I can do is I can make decisions around how can I better make sure passengers are prepared for security screening? How can I reduce that wait time for passengers? How can I increase the number of passengers screened per hour? Those are things that I can take direct impact on as a product manager, knowing that ultimately it's going to help support these additional outcomes. Ryan, anything else to add to this slide here and your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, personas are so important, and the name product outcome can be a little misleading, Tom, because it's in fact not really about the product, it's about who you're serving. And that's why
Exactly.
understanding that ecosystem is so important. And Tom, you've laid it out very nicely here. So you can try to piece together who are we creating value for? Because if we understand that, we have our product outcome. Who are we creating value for?
Hmm. What is it that that customer wants to improve upon? And I think
Mhm.
that leads us here into this very next slide is how do we express the product outcomes? Well, there's an improvement that they want to make. And in reality, your customers or your targeted personas either want to increase their ability to do something or decrease a certain outcome. There really isn't a lot of different options there. I either want to increase it, I want to improve it, and I can improve it by increasing or decreasing. Well, what is it I want to increase? There might be a specific metric that I'm looking at. And then what is that outcome? And so we, increase the speed to move passengers to airport security checkpoint, decrease the number of passengers that are unprepared as they arrive at the security checkpoint, reduce the wait time for passengers. Okay. All of a sudden, I start to see here's a great, simple, straightforward way to express these. And the better that I can express these or understand the persona, and what outcome they want to improve, then that helps guide me when it starts to come to my feature prioritization.
Mhm.
So I now have optionality. I'm not tied to a feature. I'm going to look for what's the best feature that's going to help my persona or that targeted persona improve that outcome. Well, let's go into our last slide here, and I think this will give us lots of time for Q&A. But how do we go and communicate this to other stakeholders in the organization? And one of the things that we want to make sure of is that as we're speaking to other stakeholders, is that they can see the alignment of our work. They can see the alignment around the solutions that we're delivering, which features that we want to deliver. How does that support a specific product outcome? And then be able to see that the product outcomes that we've decided and selected are connected up to a business outcome. And so that's one of the challenges that we often face in organizations is I made a decision as a product manager to deliver a certain output or a certain feature, but then I have all these stakeholders. Well, why are you doing that? Why aren't you doing this? Now I can tell them the story. We have this business goal. As we surveyed our customers, these are the top three, product outcomes that they wanted to focus on, which would move us in the direction of improving this business outcome. And now here are the solutions that we're going to deliver to deliver on that. So I think that is, to me, the most important part of being able to express these outcomes is now I can communicate them in a way that aligns the other stakeholders in the organization. All right. Well, that is our topics that we want to do. Do you want to do that? Do you want to do the poll now, or do you want to do the a bit of the Q&A?
Let's do the poll first.
Okay.
Yep.
So we have another poll here, and Kim has launched that. So again, this is you get to choose one answer. But of the topics that we discussed today, which of these do you think you can take and apply most immediately? So that's lead with outcomes versus output, be able to write clearer business outcomes, being able to write better product outcomes, communicating outcomes to aligned stakeholders, or Tom and Ryan, we sure loved what you talked about, but we got some convincing of our management team to do. So, all right, we're gonna give here about another 20 seconds for you to work
Mm-hmm.
on those.
The answers are coming in fast and furious.
Yes, they are. All right, let's make this 10 more seconds. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's end that poll and share the results. All right. So really, I think there's three of them that came out as the strongest. I wouldn't say there was any dominant one, but being able to write clearer business outcomes, write better product outcomes, and then communicate outcomes to aligned stakeholders. That is awesome. And I'm glad to see, several of you identified that we still need to do some convincing of our management team. And, hopefully what you've learned from this has armed you with some thoughts in terms of how you can take this back to your senior leaders. So very good. Well, let's move on into the Q&A. So let's go
Absolutely.
ahead
So,
and
Tom, we did get
close
one
out the poll.
question here. Let's see where. Oh, we've got a few. The first one is the template available on our website for communicating outcomes, and I think the question there may have been product outcomes, where we had the direction, the metric, and the outcome. Um, so my response to that would be, please do check out the product side playbook. The playbook includes a
Hmm.
lot of this information. So yes, go to the website. Um, oh wait, Natalie, thank you. You're clarifying. You're saying no, the last slide. So, Tom, maybe back up real quick
Oh, this
for
one right
this one.
there.
So the outcome tree, you better believe it is. So yes, Natalie, thank you. What a wonderful question. Thank you for clarifying too. There we go. So yes, she's emphatically agreeing that. So
Yeah.
yes, please go to the website. The outcome tree is very central to the work we do at Productside. Look for the Productside playbook. The playbook not only gives you this template, but every single step along the way to fill it out correctly. So
Hmm.
it takes you from start to finish through a series of 23 things that you can do. And this is all available to you directly on the website. So visit productside.com, find the Productside playbook, and have some fun. There's a lot of
Yeah, I
good stuff
believe it's under resources, right? So if you look
here.
under
Yes, that's right.
resources, then it has templates, and you'll see the playbooks there. And that
And our team
that play.
has hooked you up in our chat. We've got a link right there in the
Oh,
chat
there
of
we
this
go.
meeting.
Yeah, and the playbook is available in a B2B example. So it's not just giving you the templates, but it's showing you examples of applying it. And so we have business to business, business to consumer. And if any of you are part of an internal IT team, there are examples for that also. So,
Mm.
all
So, Tom, we
right.
have another one in chat here. That's how do executives define a business outcome and what is it based off?
Great question. So executives should be doing the same thing that we're doing in terms of the market analysis and understanding the market, as is what we're doing as for product managers at more of a product level. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean my CEO is going to do all that analysis, but I'd like to think that they have somebody on their team who is going out looking at the market analysis and bringing forward to them, here are where there are growth opportunities in the organization. Now, I think my answer was what I would love to see organizations do. But let's put some reality around here. If you're part of a public company, guess what's happening? The shareholders are demanding a certain amount of growth. And often that business outcome that your senior executives are communicating are what they believe needs to be delivered to deliver a support to or deliver value to the shareholders. And I think you and I would all agree that we often get that and say we have to grow revenue by 15% year over year for the next 3 years to maintain our share price or to grow that share price. And if you actually did the market analysis, you're going to question, is that possible? Well, at least understanding these tools that we talked about give you a way of looking at that. Because if you're given a direction to say grow revenue by 15%, I can at least start looking at my markets and say, where am I saturated? Where is this white space available? And are there new market segments that I could potentially reach out to achieve that growth? So, yes, they should be doing that work that we're doing, but then we just have to take that and translate that down at a product level. But in reality, I'm going to guess that doesn't happen as often as it should.
Great advice, Tom. So, well, I've got another one here, and that is what if I have we talked about levels of business outcome, but what about levels of product outcome? And often you have very many of them. How do you know which ones to focus on?
Yeah. So, one is I think if you understand that hierarchy of outcomes as it relates to a personas, I think that's a great starting point. And so, if I start looking at a tree of outcomes and I map, and you can't always map them one for one or, one to many. But if I can at least see the connectedness of an outcome that I can actually impact to what is the outcome at more of a organizational level at a senior at a buyer level within my customer's organization, that's going to be my guidance. There is, I don't want to invest in user outcomes that don't connect up to a clear business outcome or a clear executive buyer level outcome, I guess is the way I want to phrase that. So that would be my part of that prioritization. Understand that connectedness of user level outcomes to buyer level outcomes and selecting those that are most likely to support that buyer level desired outcome. Now, if you have customer satisfaction issues at a user level, all right, I may not be able to make that direct connectedness up to the executive, but I do know if I don't resolve those, that's going to ultimately impact my business outcome. So it's a balance, but I would definitely look at it from those two perspectives: is what do I need to do for user retention, and what do I need to do that is going to most satisfy the buyer persona within the organization?
Got it. And Tom, I think we have time for at least one more, and this one really strikes a chord with me. So, my executives believe their role is to define features to deliver, and my job is to deliver those features. What can I do to help change that mindset?
Oh, so don't think you can just go in and tell your executive team, uh, hey, this is what my role should be. Please let me start doing the role. Now, the first part that I would go back to is, why are you in that situation? And if I look back at some of my experience, one of the reasons that happened was because I wasn't taking on the role of the market expert for my product. And so if I wasn't doing the market analysis work in enough detail to help carry on a conversation with my, senior executive and help guide them, then guess what? They're gonna, this is kind of the hippo example. If all we're doing is sharing opinions, well, whose opinion is going to win? It's going to be the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. And so I think part of what we can do is to start doing that upfront part of discovery as a product manager to better talk about growth opportunities for our product, what we're hearing as part of voice of the customer, and then be able to bring that back to executive teams and start demonstrating that trust us. So I guess maybe there's a trust issue there is one of the foundational aspects of that. The second thought I would have is maybe don't try to push this across everything that you do, but pilot some of this work and say, here's a little bit of work. Yeah, and this works really well if you're leading a product management team, is saying, you know what, we're doing some of these new initiatives. Let's try to drive this more from an outcome based perspective, and we'll let the rest of it still be feature driven, and then start being able to demonstrate the results of it. Now, the third thing, and this is where somebody may agree or not agree, but have seen situations where being a feature delivery team is probably the right deliberate decision of the executive team. And so if you're part of a smaller organization driving to deliver something new into the market, and your executives are truly experts in that area, that just might be the right model for that time period. And so, evaluate whether that's a decision that they made strategically, or is that just the way, or is it because they are control freaks that does it. And so those are at least some of the considerations I would look to. Ryan, do you have any other thoughts to share on that?
Yeah, this one's an interesting one, and I always like to encourage everybody, like, look for the smallest step you can make towards that direction first. Like, maybe it's not asking for wholesale change, but maybe it's providing or like asking pointed questions about the outcome just to get people thinking about it differently. So just start there. If in the worst case scenario you go seeking business outcomes and you can't find them, now you can maybe show your leadership skills and say, "Hey, I want to help. Can we develop some?" Like, let's
Hmm.
do that. And then as
Yep.
they come together, you might look at them because you know better now, thanks to Tom. Are these good? How can I use it? Can I not use it? And you can ask questions about, "Hey, what do we think? What is that for? Why is this useful to us? What is that helping us achieve?" And by taking those small, meaningful steps, eventually over time, you're going to have some great business outcomes.
Well, and Ryan, I think you raise a good point. This is a great thing of where fill out the outcome tree
Yeah.
and take what you believe to be true, and then go have a discussion with your manager. And if you need to, bring it up to a higher level and have that discussion around, am I interpreting this right? Do I know that these are the uh, product outcomes that we're prioritizing, and are these the target business outcomes?
Mhm. All right, Tom, it's time to land this plane. Let's,
Okay,
if
I'm
you
gonna
don't
let
mind,
you.
kind of
Yep,
bumping forward for me.
I'm gonna bump ahead here.
Yep. All right. So, everybody, as we wind down, I want to take a moment to talk about something I know that is on all of our minds as product managers and leaders: staying relevant in a world that is evolving at lightning speed. So, whether it's technology or changing customer expectations or new methodologies, it's easy to feel like you are constantly playing catch up. And if that anxiety is familiar, you're not alone. Many product managers worry about their skills and they might get a little stale, and how their processes might become outdated, or they'll miss opportunities to deliver impact that their teams and organizations truly need. And that's why we created Optimal Product Management. In this course, it's designed to help you and just product teams in general keep up with the pace of change, align on modern practices, and develop the skills needed to accelerate your career and business growth. So it's through this course you can future proof yourself and the skills and the processes that you use. And here's the best part, everybody: you can save $1,000 on OPM courses right now with the discount code that you see here. It's like a coupon code. So please do use that. And with this small investment, in exchange, you get the confidence that you and your team need. To be prepared for whatever comes next. So don't wait. This offer is only good through the month of February. So please scan the QR code and secure your spot today. If you go to the next one, Tom.
All right.
So similarly, but wait, there's more. There's always more. Our AI product management course is also available to you, and it's designed to help you master those strategies on everybody's mind right now of AI. So we want to turn that into your competitive advantage for both you and your team. So right now you can save 10% on that course with the code you see on the slide. So please feel free to scan that, learn more, and register. So that way you get kind of the benefit that we're offering. And then the next one, please.
It's up there, the webinar.
There we go. So speaking of the future, let's take a quick look into February, Tom. Our next webinar is happening on February 12th. That's 2 weeks from today and tackles one of the hottest topics around, which is agentic AI. So you get to join me and my pal and yours, Dean Peters, talking about agentic AI. It's just transforming how we build, manage, and deliver products. But like we all know what AI is and why it's important to us, but come and learn from us to see what opportunities might be in front of you and what challenges you might face and how to overcome some of those things to stay ahead. So save your seat now, register for that one again, scan the code and click the link to register. We can't wait to see you there. All right. And who doesn't like to save big? I've outlined a few ways to do that, whether you're an entry-level product manager building on a solid foundation, an experienced product manager ready to sharpen your skills, or a leader seeking to create consistency and maturity across your team. Just the friendly reminder, use the coupon codes to save $1,000 on optimal product management or 10% on the AI for product managers course. So enroll now and save by scanning those QR codes, and spots are limited, so act soon. All right, and I think that's all. Thank you, everybody. It has been such a pleasure to have you today. We hope you are great at writing outcome statements from here. We can't wait to see the work you do.
All right. Thank you, everyone. This was a lot of fun.